For quadratic inequalities, we should have some prior knowledge about quadratic equation. What type of things? Let us discuss that. A quadratic equation, ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This is a general form of a quadratic equation where a, b, c are the numbers and they should not be equal to 0. To be more precise, the value of a, if it becomes 0, then it will be just a linear equation with bx plus c. So that's why I will say that a should never be equal to 0. B and c, sometimes in some case, it can be 0. For example, you can also see a quadratic like this. 2x square minus 1 is equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation. If you have 3x square plus 5x is equal to 0, this is also a quadratic equation. So in these two, you can see that b and c values are 0. The constants are 0, but a can never be 0. Another thing which is very important is the sign of a. Sign of a, if it is positive, then it will be an upward parabola. Sign of a, if it is negative, then it will be a downward parabola. How we have to plot equation of a parabola on the graph, that depends on how we are factorizing it or whether we are doing completing the square. So that we will learn along with the example. Okay, factorizing the quadratic is quite easy, that you have been doing from last 2-3 years now, but completing the square is relatively difficult and it is a very fixed theoretical method. So we'll see how do we get that also. Okay, but before that, let us see that I have a quadratic x square plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. Okay, I'll show you that how do we deal with quadratic inequalities if we have a question. So first we will factorize it. So when you will factorize, you'll get these factors. Okay, if there is any doubt in understanding the factor, you can ask on the spot. X plus 2, x plus 3 are the factors because 6 we are breaking it off in 2 and 3 and we are writing it as x plus 2, x plus 3. Then tentatively, you will plot these points on the number line. Tentatively means you don't have to draw the actual number line representing all the numbers. Just write -3 and -2. At least you should know that which comes first and which will come later. So -3 is a smaller number. When you solve x plus 3 is equal to 0, it will be x is equal to -3. This will give me -2. So -3 is a smaller number, hence written first and then -2. Another thing which you should know is whether the sign of a is positive or negative. We are not concerned with the value of a. Be very clear, we are just concerned with the sign of a for quadratic inequalities. So if the sign of a is positive in this case, then I will be getting an upward parabola. I will draw a rough graph of parabola. Okay, this is the graph of parabola. We don't have to do anything else for drawing this graph. Like you should not know the vertex, you should not know the intercept. Okay, and this is all applicable when we are solving quadratic inequalities. If it is a question of vertex, then we have to solve for vertex. Right now, that is not required. Now let's say for this graph, okay, how the graph is drawn. If it is clear, then let us analyze the graph only. Now for this graph, we were having equation x square plus 5x plus 6. What are the possible inequalities we can get in a question? So the first one will be x square plus 5x plus 6 greater than 0. Okay, let us talk about this first. So x square plus 5x plus 6 is what? It is this graph what we have drawn. And we are just checking that for what values of x, this is greater than 0. In simple words, for what values of x, this graph is above the horizontal line. This horizontal line is x-axis. The meaning of this greater than 0 is we are looking for such values where this is above x-axis. Okay, so from the graph, if you look at the shaded portion, I'm doing it for this one, then I'll ask for the next inequality. If you look at the shaded portion, it is quite evident that this shaded portion is above x-axis and hence it will satisfy this greater than 0 inequality. So I will say that for x less than -3 or for x greater than -2, this portion is x less than -3 and this portion is x greater than -2. So for either of them, if I put any of the x value, then it will satisfy the inequality. If there's any doubt understanding that, you can even substitute any of the value before -3 or after -2 and check that out. You will always get this inequality greater than 0. So to conclude, I can say that whenever we have an inequality greater than 0, we will draw a rough graph. How we have to draw the graph that we have already discussed. After drawing the graph, we will see that which portion is above x-axis because we are looking greater than 0. Greater than 0 means positive. Okay, so positive means this is a function. Okay, so anything which is above x-axis, it means positive, and anything which is below x-axis is negative. I'm not talking about positive x and negative x value. I'm talking about the value of this quadratic to be positive or negative. So now our next case is same inequality, x square plus 5x plus 6 less than 0. Now, if you just replicate the same model what we did earlier, we can say that this quadratic equation, when it is negative, for what values of x it is negative. So if we follow the same, we can see that this portion of the graph falls below, means negative. So if you look at the values of x, I can say that for x values between -3 to -2, it will be negative. Okay, keep it very simple and clear in your mind. It is not a complicated thing. It's just that if you draw the rough graph, you'll be able to see everything properly. That's why we are helping, like we are taking help of a graph. So our next case is x square plus 5x plus 6 greater than or equal to 0. And this will be less than or equal to 0. Now, if you guys are clear, you guys can first try to write the answer for both of them. Then I'll just write it down. Okay, let me write the answer. I'll go back to x square plus 5x plus 6 greater than 0 before writing answer for this. When it was greater than 0, we discussed that we are talking about the portion which is above x-axis. That's why we wrote the answer as x less than -3 and x greater than -2. Coming back to our present case, it is greater than or equal to 0. Equal to 0 will be at -3 and -2. So this time the only difference will be that it will be x less than or equal to -3 or x greater than or equal to -2. Similarly, if you look at the next one, we are talking about less than or equal to 0. So less than or equal to 0 means it will be x greater than or equal to -3, less than or equal to -2. Okay, we are talking about this portion. That's why the inequality is like this. And for the first one, we were talking about this portion. So this time, both the points are also included. And that's, you can see in the inequality also. X greater than equal to 3, -3. It means that -3 is also taken as well as -2 is taken. And the region between them will be taken. Same logic applied for that. X less than or equal to -3 or x greater than or equal to -2. So to begin with, we will first see the factors. So it is 14 will be 2 and 7, and -2 minus 7 will give me -9. So my factors will be x minus 7 and x minus 2, and that is less than or equal to 0. Then from here, we will get the values of x. On solving, we'll get x as 2 and 7. This is just a rough plotting. 2 is smaller, so it should be plotted first. And then we will see sine of A. Sine of A, just for the revision, I'll tell you again. Sine of A is used to determine whether it will be an upward parabola or downward parabola. This is very important. So sine of A is positive because it is just x square. X square means it can be written as 1x square. So it is positive. So it is an upward parabola. I'll draw the parabola. Now in this parabola, we are looking for a region which is less than or equal to 0. So the region which is less than or equal to 0 falls here below x-axis. So my answer will be x greater than or equal to 2, less than or equal to 7. That's it. In the same question, if they would have asked that x square minus 9x plus 14 greater than or equal to 0, then for that answer would have been x less than or equal to 2 or x greater than or equal to 7. Okay, so this is how we can use the graph and we can solve quadratic inequalities.